Hey, Facebook family. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. Welcome to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks Live at 5. Let me, hey, Greg, welcome. You're an early riser. You're the first one through the door. Welcome, sir. Let me go ahead and do some house cleaning stuff, you guys. I'm setting this up on my other pages, asking those of you who are here, hey, Debbie, hey, Ray, go ahead and share this on your Facebook timeline so that your friends will have an opportunity to hear what we're talking about today. And I'm going to just kind of stall a little bit and give some of the stragglers a chance to come on in and join us before I start talking, understanding that those late stragglers always have the benefit of listening a little later. So welcome. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but I have a special extra glow today. I just came back from seeing my girl, Ursula. Thank you, Miss Ursula. You did your thing. You made me look amazing yet again. And so for that, I am forever in your debt. Hey, Cheryl, what's up, girl? I know it's not quite like hot yoga, Cheryl, but I hope you will have a good time in this little bit of time that we're going to spend together. So, yeah. I want to talk about, hey, David. I want to talk about, hey, James. I want to talk a little bit about some things that I addressed on yesterday for those of you who don't know. And if you don't know, I'm going to beat you up and push you down when I see you. If you are not subscribing to my podcast, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, on the podcast platform of your choice, iHeart, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn. Yeah, I think that's all of them. Did I say iHeart? Yeah, iTunes. I'm on all of them. So please do subscribe to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, and I'm sure that you will get notifications weekly every Tuesday when my new content drops on my podcast. And yeah, I'm going to share some stuff with you a little bit again today that I talked about on yesterday. You know, I tried to wait. That whole thing broke yesterday with the former officer in Minneapolis, Mohammed Noor, who was found guilty in the fatal shooting of the white female from Australia, Justine Damon, I think is her name. Officer Noor was a problematic officer. And so let me just say this to be fair, because I see a lot of chatter on social media about the fact that, you know, Mohammed Noor is a Somali police officer. And so I certainly expected that they would find him guilty, and not so much because he's from Somalia, hey Nia, but because I had read, it was reported that he was a problem officer. And so listen, this police chief out there knew who Officer Noor was. There were certainly records of his substandard behavior as a police officer. And listen, I say this all the time, everybody who wants to be the police should not be. No matter your ethnicity, you know, this is not the kind of job that everybody can do and should do. And there were instances, Officer Noor showed them who he was. They just didn't believe it. They had to wait until someone lost a life before they took some action. And so now, don't know how much time he's going to get, but he was found guilty a couple of days ago, and he's facing some serious penalty as a result of it. And so I have to be fair in my assessment of how they came to this. Now, listen, it is unprecedented that you would have so many police officers, the police union, the police chief, all coming to testify against little Mohammed. I think that had a lot to do with his skin color. I can't lie. But he made it easy for them to come get him because he was kind of messed up. He wasn't a good police officer, and it was probably just a matter of time before somebody was going to get seriously hurt because of this officer. And so I hold the police chief and I hold his supervisors accountable for not doing the right thing knowing who he was. And now we have a lady who lost her life unnecessarily. And so for everybody who's, all caught up in your feelings about this black man being found guilty of shooting this black woman, he should have been found guilty, because there was no reason for him to use deadly force. He shot over his partner to kill this woman. And if the partner who was closest to her didn't feel a threat and didn't act on her being so close to him, which is what Officer Norris said when he testified, he took the stand and spoke on his own behalf. And he said that he thought that this lady was going to do some harm to his partner. And so he was trying to save his partner's life. Now, that works, for people who don't look like me and for people who don't look like Muhammad. That works every time. And they too should be found guilty. But, that's not the way it works. In the real world, it's not the way it works. And so Muhammad, I guess he'd seen one police shooting too many and thought he could use, what they do. You guys understand, we don't get to do what they do, right? We don't get to do that. And so he's gonna have a long time to figure that out and understand that as he sits in prison, because he looks to be a young man. And so, while it may seem like I'm making light of it, his circumstance, I'm not. This is a cautionary tale for police officers, no matter the ethnicity, but particularly for those of you that look like me, who are expecting, the FOP to come to your aid, who are expecting the homie hookup. Yeah, you can't do what they do, Black police officers. So don't try this stuff at home, okay? Yeah. Now, back to my podcast. If you don't know about my podcast, you need to subscribe to it. It was a pretty good one yesterday, if I must say so myself. And, when I'm, feeling extra proud of my podcast, I will turn it into a video and put it up on my YouTube channel for my YouTube subbies. So, hey, YouTube family, I have not forgotten about you. You guys know what's up. And you see my videos that I've been posting for your benefit as well. And so I do that from time to time to remind my YouTube subscribers, as well as my Facebook family, that I do have a podcast that I would like for you to go and subscribe to. Because listen, there's some things that are shaking loose, you guys. And I think I've said this to you before, but let me remind you, if I didn't, that opportunities come based on followers. I don't make these rules up, you guys, but as I start branching out and venturing out and looking for opportunities, the first thing, folks want to know is who follows you. Hey, Michael, how many followers do you have? How many subscribers do you have? And so it's a big deal in some circles. I am not motivated by followers. I don't do what I do because I'm looking for followers, but they believe, whoever they are, that if you don't have a sufficient following, then, why do we want to do this with you or that with you, right? So please do subscribe to my social media platforms, and tell your friends to subscribe to my social media platforms and support me. Support me. I know that you guys, excuse me, I know that you guys appreciate what I'm doing, and I know that you appreciate the information that I share with you weekly, because I hear from you here on Facebook, and I particularly get that from my YouTube family. So thank you for being so supportive and so encouraging, YouTube subbies. I appreciate your input. I appreciate your comments on my YouTube channel. But what I really would appreciate are some more followers and subscribers. So hook a sister up, tell a friend, hashtag tell a friend. You know how I used to do, right? I used to say hashtag tell a friend, put that on your timeline. Yeah, don't just hashtag it, really do tell a friend. And when you do go over to my podcast, you will find some pretty interesting information that I shared on yesterday. And one of the things has to do with parking enforcement. And I'm not sure if it's just here in California or if this is nationwide. I think it may be nationwide, and it has to do with when you park your car in a limited time zone, and parking enforcement will come by and they'll mark your tires, they'll chalk your tires. Well, there's some legislation that speaks to that. And you got to go to my podcast if you want to hear about it. But it's really interesting. And for those of you who, park at meters or park, someplace where it's 9 to 5 or 2 to 4, and you worry about somebody coming by and chalking your tires, yeah, you need to know. So go to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. Check it out. Michael, I am not going to be speaking in Pasadena anytime soon that I know of, but that could change. So if that happens, Michael, I'll let you know. Thanks for asking. But it looks like I'm going to be spending you guys a lot of time up north. I've been working with this young lady who I met up in Sacramento. And when I tell you that Sacramento is bananas, but listen, Vallejo Police Department, ooh, that's a horse of a whole nother different color going on up there in Vallejo. And so, Jamelia, sister girl, yeah, I got your message today, and I'll be calling you back a little later to talk about that video that you shared with me. But, you know, there's a lot going on, particularly with regards to AB 392. And for those of you who don't know, AB 392 is legislation that is in the process of being discussed, dealing with when police officers can use deadly force. And the bottom line is that it encourages officers to de-escalate when possible. Nobody's saying a police officer can't use your weapon if you're facing a deadly threat yourself, right? Immediate defense of life, you get to protect yourself. But if it's not an immediate defense of life, y'all, can we just have a conversation with the suspect first? Can we, you know, talk to him kind of rough before we just start shooting 18 times? I mean, is that too much to ask? Because listen, there's a lot of information coming out about that shooting up in Vallejo, California with the young man by the name of Willie McCoy, who you've heard me speak about. And I was very skeptical when I first heard the story, because the way the story came out said that he was asleep, slumped over the wheel in a drive-through at a Taco Bell. And now what I'm hearing is that this young man had a seizure. So I don't know what we're going to do to get police officers to understand that, you know, y'all know we got issues with our health because you guys are causing a lot of it. You know, we got hypertension that's caused by stress, and, you know, blood pressure's all high. Blood pressure causes strokes, right? So you guys understand that every now and then we could be suffering a medical emergency. It may not have anything to do with mental illness. It might just be a real deal medical emergency. And there have been instances and reports of police officers who have hurt people who didn't respond, who weren't complying, who didn't follow the rules. I remember reading something about a man who was beaten because he didn't respond and he was deaf. So it could happen. Willie McCoy was shot as he was awakening from a seizure. Now, what complicates things in my mind with regards to the Willie McCoy incident is that he did have a gun in his possession and the officers saw it. And there's a video, and I'm not sure that I'm at liberty to share it with you right now. So I'll find out for next week. And if I'm able to share it with you, I'll show it to you, because in this video, the family has it. And if there hasn't already been a press conference up in Vallejo, they're going to have one. And this video shows very clearly how the officers. Okay, Michael, I see you say the police took the shooter in North Carolina from the shooting at the university into custody without incident. Yeah, because they probably didn't look like us, right, Michael? So that's how that happens. But back to the Willie McCoy shooting, you can see on the video, the officers spent an inordinate amount of time discussing how they were going to drag his ass out the window and what they were going to do to his ass. Break the window, do this, do that. They spent a lot of time chopping it up about what they were going to do, knowing that, you know, he seemed to be unresponsive. And for as much chatter as they were having, they should have given consideration to the fact that maybe he's not just sleep. Maybe it's something else, because he didn't come to for a long time during this time period where they're having this discussion about tactics, if you will, about what they're going to do, never discussing tactically, why don't we just back up? Why don't we get more units? Why don't we get an air unit? Why don't we get on our PA system? I mean, there were some other things they could have done before they just opened fire, because when he did come to, I think he made some sort of a movement that they said was furtive. Police lingo for that means he moved quickly. Furtive. He did something that scared the bejesus out of me. And so the end result was 20 rounds, 18 rounds, something like that. Because, you know, if an officer has 15 rounds in his magazine, we generally carry, you know, 3 mags. At least that's what I carried. 3 mags. What's that? 45 rounds? I could have done a lot of damage if I so desired with 45 rounds. And these officers are just firing until they get to a barrel meltdown because there's so much heat coming out of the doggone end of the gun. You give them 15 rounds, they're going to fire 15 rounds before they reload. And so certainly there was something else I believe that these officers could have done in the instance of Willie McCoy. And now I'm hearing from people on the ground up there that folks are being harassed, retaliated against by the police, being stopped, just cause. And it's bananas. And so we're going to be working, I will be working with the folks up there to kind of see what can we do to create some momentum, create some publicity for what's going on. And I think part of the problem that exacerbates the situation up there is I'm told that the mayor, I believe, is a former lieutenant on that police department. And so he supports his police chief. I think it's a small department. I'm told about 100 officers, and there's, a handful of them that are wreaking havoc. But those, however many of them it is, they're causing a lot of trouble for the folks up there. And so I'll be talking a lot more about what's going on up in Northern California, specifically Vallejo, and how successful our efforts are going to be. Listen, Vallejo, get ready. This is a marathon. This is not going to be a sprint. And so there is not going to be any one thing that is going to fix the problem that you guys are having up there. But I'm in it to win it. And I'm here to support you however I can. Ooh, I'm doing, almost got locked out of this iPhone. I put my code in here twice and it was still shaking like that ain't the right code. I thought I was going to get locked out for good. Now I know yet another reason why my children told me I didn't need an iPhone. I should have stuck with my Android. But anyway, here we are. Also in the news, and I haven't compared these two, but I'm going to share it with you because there is a article about Amber Geiger. We're getting close. She's going to be going to trial on August the 12th, I believe it is. And they have released a 911 tape. Now, listen, I've heard a 911 tape previously, and this link that I'm sharing with you right now has in it an audio of Amber Geiger calling the police. And so I guess maybe, out there in the court of public opinion, right? They haven't found a jury yet. So they put this audio out. How nice of them to do that, so that people could hear her say what she had to say in the aftermath of the shooting. And I think it was something like, oh my God, I thought I was in my apartment, and I'm gonna lose my job, and some other gibberish that she was saying. And so you can click on that link in this thread and listen to this 911 call. And then when we meet on next week, I'm going to play another 911 call that I have heard, that I recorded from a news station out there early on, because I thought it might disappear. And in this particular 911 call, so I don't know if she called twice or if they segmented the 911 call, but in the one that I have, I don't hear her saying anything about, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. Oh, what did I do? Unless she called again to kind of create a audio record because she realized she messed up in a big way. The one that I have merely speaks to her saying, identifying herself to the 911 dispatcher as security, because you guys remember I made a big deal about me saying I believe that she was working for that apartment complex as security, because she lived there and maybe got a deal or had some arrangement with them. So I'm curious to see how these two 911 calls jive in terms of how similar they are, or do they say the same thing, or do they say something completely different? And why now are they releasing the 911 call a couple of months before her trial is set to begin? But nonetheless, that's what's going on. And I'll get back to you with regards to that. The other thing that I'm going to talk about just real briefly here, and I'm not going to be with you long today, is the had a senior moment. Nor how he was treated versus how white officers are treated. And then there was an article that circulated, and I talked a great deal about this on my podcast, so I'm not going to go into all of that again. Go over to my podcast, But the long and the short of it is USA Today did a investigative study, and they did a report. And you can find that article also. It was back in early April. But basically what it talks about are police chiefs who have been found guilty of serious misconduct and have been able to maintain their job, or they get the gift of resignation and they move on to another police department and are hired there. And so they said there were hundreds of police departments that they looked at across the nation. And of those hundreds, they found 32 police chiefs who have been involved in serious misconduct. Of those 32 police chiefs, 8 were actually involved in criminal activity, and yet they remain police chiefs. And so I say all the time, you know, that the fish rots from the head, right? And so you understand then why police chiefs are so willing to circle the wagon and to get behind officers who are involved in misconduct, because heck, some of the police chiefs are involved in misconduct. And it's amazing to think that they are involved in the kinds of things that they're involved in, sometimes repeat offenders, and yet they're able to keep their job. Well, you know why, because at least from the story that I saw, none of them look like me. Because if they look like me, yeah, they wouldn't have been able to hang on to that job. But nonetheless, they're out there. And you guys should know that they're out there, and you should be paying attention, because, you know, elections come and go. And, you know, I can't even begin to try to tell you when a particular sheriff or a particular mayor may be up for re-election. But every police chief serves at the pleasure of a mayor, and every sheriff is an elected official. And so we need to pay particular attention to those folks who may be holding those positions, who may have been involved in serious misconduct, because you know they will never have your best interest at heart, and you need to help them on to another profession, if at all possible. So we need to start paying attention to the right stuff. And so to that end, I'll just say this, because you understand, a couple of days ago, we lost John Singleton due to a stroke. And I don't know, obviously, his medical history, but I know that I've seen a lot of people advocating for Black men particularly, but Black women, because Black women, you know, we are susceptible to heart attacks. And so we need to be better about our health, and we need to be better about our business. And so what I'm talking about is, if you don't have a living will, or if you don't have a trust, you need to make sure that you take care of your business so that you don't have family members fighting over your carcass once you're gone. Because listen, I don't know what it is about death and Black people, but it will sure bring out the worst in us. Maybe that goes on in other cultures, I don't know. But I know what happens when one of us dies, and, you know, you don't even have to have anything. And it's reported that I think John Singleton had like $34 million or something. And ooh-wee, his kids, and he had 7 of them, allegedly, his kids, his mother, and his father. So it sounds like maybe they're not together. And then this, you know, side piece are all fighting for a chunk of that change. So while, yeah, it's important to pay attention to your blood pressure and, you know, keep a cuff nearby, but it's even more important to go ahead and get a trust. And you don't even have to have a lot of money to need a trust, but you need to speak to what you want to happen to you in the event that you become incapacitated, if you become ill. And I can tell you from personal experience, I'll just share this with you, because my mom, God bless her, rest in peace, passed away years ago, but we had a medical directive. She had a medical directive, thankfully, because my mom was about taking care of business. And so that's, you know, what I'm about. And once she had lost consciousness and they put her on a respirator, they weren't going to take her off. And I knew that my mom didn't want to be on any kind of breathing apparatus. Her doctor knew that as well, but asked me if I had a medical directive, and I did, and I was able to bring it in, and we had to go to the Board of Ethics at the hospital, and it took a couple of days before they would take her off that ventilator, because once they put you on, it's pretty hard to get you off, absent some kind of a medical directive or clear-cut proof that you are not going to be able to be resuscitated. And in the case of my mom, we had that medical directive, and so that's another reason why it's so important to have a trust, if not a will, a living trust that you can change, and you can put whoever you want in charge of having that kind of authority over your medically. It's called a medical directive. It's also referred to as a do not resuscitate. I guess that's part of the medical directive, but you really need to have that. And so you really need to have some insurance too, but that's a whole nother segment, because I'm seeing a whole lot of GoFundMe's and folks on the corner having car washes when somebody gets up out of here, because we don't prepare and understand that none of us will get out of here alive. So handle your business, and that's kind of it, you guys. I'm gonna be taking a little road trip next week, and you guys will be hearing about it, because I'll be posting food and stuff when I get where I'm going. Secret destination, I can't say just yet. But until next week, you guys, I want you to be good, and I want you to be safe.